Today, the National Security Committee met, and we were considering a large number of matters, as is normal for the National Security Committee, but in particular, we met today to address the situation in India and the terrible humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in India. We recognise that this has been a very significant outbreak in India, and we know for Australians who have family in India at this time, they will be very distressed. The scenes that we're seeing from India are truly heartbreaking. India is a great friend of Australia, a comprehensive strategic partner. We share so much in common as peoples, as democratic nations, and we extend our deepest sympathies and condolences and support to the nation of India and the people of India, the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi. They are dear friends of Australia, and we will stand with them during this terrible crisis, and for all Australians who are caught up in this terrible set of events. The number of cases continues to increase, 325,000 new COVID cases on the 25th of April on Anzac Day, and over 2,800 deaths. There are significant shortages of key personal protection equipment, medical equipment, oxygen supplies, and a severe disruption of the production capabilities of India because of the impact of COVID on their population. Australia, by contrast, has obviously had a very different experience, and that places us in a unique position amongst many countries to lend our support to India at this time. India has been determined also to be a high-risk country under the process we've put in place for the purpose of travel arrangements. Not only do we have to reach out and support our friends and family and all of those across India, but we also need to take the appropriate steps to ensure that here in Australia we have our border protection arrangements upgraded and put in place to deal with the risks that clearly present from travel from India. Today we agreed, in addition to the measures that were announced after the last National Cabinet meeting, to pause direct passenger flights between India and Australia until the 15th of May. It will be reviewed prior to that time in terms of any further extension of that pause in those arrangements. This will impact directly on 2 passenger services from India into Sydney and 2 repatriation flights from India to Darwin, this impacting around 500 arrivals. Passengers on all future flights, when and if these flights are resumed going forward, we were required to have both a negative PCR test and a negative rapid antigen test prior to uplift. Further flights to India will be considered, as I said, prior to the 15th of May, with a focus on supporting vulnerable Australians, and in particular in relation to charter flights that have been put in place by the Australian government. Now, for indirect flights, because that is another way that people who may have been in India would come to Australia, already it has been announced and we're advised that indirect flights through Doha, Dubai, Singapore and Kuala Lumpur, we are aware that flights to and from these transit points and India have been paused by the respective governments. So that third country entry point into Australia has already been closed by those key embarkation points to Australia. That will obviously have impacts on, in a positive way in terms of restricting the inflow, in fact, in most cases, eliminating it for places like Perth and South Australia and ports that do not have direct flights.